Yeah.
And then on Omawale also you have the Peace of Mind song, and you reference how King T shout you out or referencing the West. And since
Yep.
with a Lootpack coming under the Liquid Crew family,
Yes.
what did King T say, and what have you learned from King T over the years?
Oh yeah, that was a personal. We see a lot of people over time, and it's dope when you haven't seen someone over time, like a family member, and you pick up kind of like where you left off. And I remember seeing him once with my son, introducing him, and all literally was like, "Hey, keep repping the West, keep repping the West, kid." So to me, that was the gesture. I'm like, it's almost like those things that you don't hear about, like, oh, Michael Jordan once told me when he signed my ball this. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna write about that. So I was like, let me put that in that essence. Um, and then I felt like on this joint, a lot of people around me have been going through changes in their life, whether it be politically, um, physically, but even emotionally, because a lot of people are speaking up from a different mindset of like mental health that I wasn't used to seeing. I think the pandemic started, it kind of like it triggered that, and you're just not used to seeing it. So the peace of mind, I know I use a lot of movie references, but it does reflect what is happening. If you may have seen, I don't know if it was Endgame, Avengers Endgame,
I didn't see that one.
or Civil War, there was a moment when they were sitting at like a table after everything was already, destroyed, which was reflective to me like an AA meeting, you know. Um, and I told Mers like a lot of things that's been happening has really been affecting people mentally, but it's for the bad, but then for the good as well, because it makes you look at your inner self and either change or in Mers' case speak up on what he's already been doing as a change. Um, and we never do that. I rarely ever see artists collab on songs speaking on well-being, mentally, whether it be the family, or just a life change, you know. And that was where the peace of mind came in. We know things have happened before, and we're dealing with the repercussions of what's going on politically. Question is, what do we do about it now? How can we navigate through this time? So that's pretty much how that song came together.
Yeah, because I think it's important that given the mounds and mounds of societal issues that we have and that we need to resolve, and then globally as well, it's one thing to point out the problems. It's another thing to talk about how to resolve them, how to work past them,
Yep.
and then what people are doing to do those types of things, which
Yep.
is why I think Omawale is a very powerful album, because you have that in there. You
Yeah.
have the stress and the pressure and the struggle, but then there's also these moments of reflection that lead into some actual tangible solutions that people can implement into their lives.
Appreciate it.
So for you, when did you understand the value of that?
Ooh, good question. I think because of what I was seeing with the pandemic, quarantine, and all that stuff, I never witnessed something like where the whole US is just shut down and a lot of people didn't get through it. We know the ups and downs of what that caused. Some people either became better for it, or some people became worse, and it didn't affect them the way they thought going in. And it was just so much turmoil that was just left and right, left and right. But like I said, having my family with me was a guiding force because it did keep me sane. I know I gave them headaches and vice versa, but the support and the love grew closer because you were forced to be at home. I don't even know that's ever happened. I don't think that's ever happened to me. You know what I'm saying? And I remember going to Japan once, looking at people with masks on all the time. And I would have never have thought. It was almost like I feel guilty of even looking down at them Like, why? How could they navigate what they're doing? What, you know? And I remember me and fellow people that were with me all the time were thinking the same thing. Now here we are, not prepared for it. You know, combine that with politics and um, family values and you know, we were going to church and then we can't go to church. Here comes online church, and it was just one of those things that all those things kind of kept me sane to still be me and not change. And that was another extra spark to do the album or to complete a song like that. You know, he's watching all these TVs about food changes, and you know, and that's why I reference should I go vegan, you know, because a lot of people have had changes through time. Music was a guiding force. I didn't listen to no hip hop throughout the whole quarantine. Rare. It was all funk, soul, which I've always loved. But combine music with the family situation, like I'm saying, and the spark of creating an album, that was it. So when I told Murs, it was like, all right, here's where we're going with it. So yes, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's also interesting what you say about the mask in Asia, because I was told that, or in Japan specifically, but I was told that in Asia, people would wear it because of respect for others if they had gotten sick or they had a cold or they had something. So it was actually more to respect the other person than their own inconvenience, real or imagined.
Wow. See, that's the
So
thing, man. Like, I can only imagine when things sparked off with the pandemic, how they might have been looking at us. You know, we're the rookies, but
right.
I think we're smarter than we are. I think the timing of things combined with politics and the news being given to us, it was too much. It was too much for us to handle at one time. There was no politics going on, and the same events occurred, and it was boom. We probably would have been through the pandemic quicker, like Australia and I think New Zealand went. That's my opinion, but people had their combining their rights and entitlement and politics, and I don't want to be told what to do, which I understand all of those. But I think it wasn't really about everyone moving forward. It was more their own individual selves moving forward. So it was hard for us to navigate. We had to find out the hard way.
Yes. And throughout Omawale, also the cover. I know you had mentioned that the song in particular, as Bookie Eli referenced, but the cover it seems like does as well.
Yes.
And then also like on Fatherhood, you have the Boys in the Hood, the Cuba Gooding kind of meltdown, among other things. So why? And rap has done this, you know, for decades. But for you and on Omawale in particular, why did weaving scenes or dialogue from famous films end up being something you wanted to do?
Right. Because one, I remember in the book of Eli specifically, he was dealing with a lot through the travel that he was going through. And one other character would ask him a question. He wanted to explain in like, how can I say this? I think he wanted to go in detail and explain the background and what happened and what he's been going through, but he summed it up. It was almost like he was fighting against his own emotions to go deeper into here's how we are right now and here's why. But he just kept it simple. No more questions. Because he's already lived that pain. Now he's just trying to move forward. Other people are trying to catch up. So with the cover, I felt let me first off represent the aspect of time, traveling, surviving over time. So on the cover, I have a fresh cut, bald, you know, but in the video for reflections, I have gray hair, just like he did. And that's basically painting the picture that the album itself is his journey, reflected in music, but his journey through time. Um, because I think it was like 30 years that that movie took place. And when I reference certain things that you mentioned in the lyric, the things that are happening now aren't new. These are things that are just being reminded and thrown in our face now, just in a bigger light and easier for it to be shown light. So that's why I brought back the Cuba Gooding essence, because if I had a TV, if I had a room in the film Cuba Gooding, I think it was one situation where he got frustrated. 2022 was like 100 of those different situations. And the feeling is the same feeling that he captured on that. There was no way else I could express that other than to use that snippet, because that's pretty much how a lot of people felt. That term, tired of being tired, or sick and tired of being tired, everyone shares it different. You know what I'm saying? And your most strongest person could one day let his feelings out one day. So that's pretty much why I use those aspects of it.
Okay. And throughout Omawale, you also have some of these bridges from songs. And one of the things I was intrigued about was with Soundpieces, the Antidote, you guys had the interludes, the skits, the short songs, normal length. So why creatively, how going into Soundpieces, how did that work? And then how do you compare that to what you did on Omawale?
Yeah, I remember with Soundpieces, because when me and Madlib and Rose did that project, we really felt like that was a snippet of what we would do every week. We would record projects like that every week. And the interludes wasn't really for the audience. It was really for the mood that we're in. It reminded us of a record that Madlib might have thrown on, or said, hey, we're going to eat, or we're trying to go get a record that just came out, and we're listening to something, and or when he's there making a track and he comes across something that wasn't meant to be on that track, but it always stuck in his head. So when it came time to the album, like, it was really more to make us feel good. At that time when we were recording, it was to make us be reminded of like these interludes that we once heard, And then obviously the influence of Pete Rock, who would use a lot of interludes. And our one thing we always said was we couldn't understand how someone like Pete would make these beats, or interludes actually, but not use them in the song. It's like finding a gem, but not wanting to tarnish it. So I'm gonna just leave it here and let you get a snippet of it. So that aspect always stuck with me, because those interludes really get people in the mind of what I'm feeling. Because I could almost explain a lot of the interludes more than the songs, or just as much as the songs.
Well, think about it. Imagine if Mecca and the Soul Brother, or the main ingredient too, really, even though people sleep on it. Imagine if somebody should do that, just do the album off of those.
Yes. Or do an interview with people who tend to do that and say, what did the inspiration come from using these interludes? A lot of times it could be a special story or some personal, an occasion, a life moment. And those mean more to the artist more than the audience is hearing it. So that's what it is.
Because even think about it, on They Reminisce Over You, there's even in the video version of the song, they have the intro that bleeds into the song is there.
That I feel that interlude almost just as much as the song.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And another thing about collaborations with Lootpack, and then being on Coast to Coast with WLIX.
Yes.
With the licks. What did you see, if anything, differently about doing Lootpack stuff independently with Stone's Throw, but then getting on Loud, which was a major independent at the time, and working with the licks? How were you seeing things change, evolve, the different scales of things? What was that?
I think it was for us to be more outspoken, because we were like, when we first came out, we really didn't speak too much. I think Madlib's Pops, Mr. Jackson was our representation. And though we had the hunger in us, we were still trying to figure us out. We was young, man. We was just hungry. At the same time, we just wanted to keep growing. And Rome's on the cuts, me on the vocals, and Madlib on the beats, of course. We just wanted to keep growing. And being that we're young, we were using our energy just to perpetuate the songs and how we would craft the songs together. But we technically didn't have an actual manager per se, and we weren't signed. So for us to work with the Alcoholics, which was pure chance that even happened. That was our first light into the whole world of, okay, this is a major label release and these guys are putting us under the wing. And it felt different versus another major artist who might be a fan of us wanting to collab. When they heard the music we did at that particular moment, it reminded them, I guess the vibe we were coming off reminded them of themselves, is what I meant to say. And so it was like kind of inevitable for us to do it. If that had happened with another artist, and if for different reasons, it would have been more just a business move, like, you know, pay for an artist, collab, and that's it. Where these guys was forming a movement, you know what I mean? The Liquid Crew and the whole West Coast. The dopest thing to me about what they've done to this day was they weren't trying to be put in a box. That was pretty much, that right there was all that needed to be said, because everyone had their opinions of what they should sound like and what they should look like, what they should talk about because of where they lived. They didn't fall under none of that. And they said that to us. We thought you guys would sound like blah, 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 and this and that. So that was like inevitable that we would end up working together. And pretty much we just kept the relationship growing with them over time and being blessed to work with them on those albums, man. And to this day, you know, seeing J-Ro get married and Tash doing his thing and Swift, it's crazy, man. And I think the dopest blessing for me, besides working with them, is knowing that both my kids, you know their music, but not from me. You know, thank God for video games. Video game soundtracks had a 5-year-old chanting, "Alcohol has got the beats that'll make you say, damn." That's crazy to me. And my daughter Kiana got the chance to rock a show or so with them when I was playing. So that was like the blessings of that relationship.
Well, there it is. Yeah. All right. Well, Wildchild, anything else you want to add before we wrap up today?
Oh man, first I appreciate you for having me on, and everybody out there, you know what I'm saying, who want to put people in boxes. A lot of times just realize that can motivate someone else, but never judge a book by its cover. We say that term so lightly, man, but a lot of people go through things that you're not. So don't underestimate what's coming. That Omawale album is proof right there that, you know, we all go through this. We just got to keep reflecting positive.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Best with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.